Hey students, Aaron here. All good things come to an end, and we are nearing the end of this course here. So we are working on our final project. And I may or may not be your instructor, it just depends on how this course is organized. But if you've seen my face before, I'm the author, I'm the guy behind all of the crazy orange text and graphics. That's me. Orange isn't my favorite color, I just thought it would be a fun color to try out. But anyways, I'm here to go through the project with you. And so this is one video, however, it is slotted into little time slots. I'll put the timestamps, okay, for everything. There'll be an introduction, part A, part B, part C, and part D. So there are 4 parts of this project, A, B, C, and D, and it combines both the use of Photoshop and InDesign. So InDesign is often used to format blocks of text. And so you can think of InDesign as anything that has text. InDesign is definitely your go-to. So a magazine, a poster, a brochure, a visual essay, anything like that would be really great for InDesign. And good for you, I saved InDesign till the end very, very intentionally because it's in a tremendously easier version of Photoshop. So if you can do Photoshop, you can learn this in 10 minutes. So I will show you a few tricks you'll need to know, and then you'll be good for the rest of your professional practice. So we use it a lot, by the way, interior designers. Okay, so I want to draw your attention to the introduction, what we're doing here. By popular demand and by vote, remember, this is a democracy in this classroom, and you asked for it and I provided, we will be doing a dream home. I didn't know this is what we were going to do at the beginning of the semester, but I listened, and it sounds like we're doing a dream home. So the dream home, we have a few things I want to explain here. So I really need to provide guardrails when it comes to the floor plan. Otherwise, we'll be doing buildings of different sizes, and it can be a little problematic. And I also want to provide you with the graphics for the floor plan in a 3D rendering, just so you're not out there floundering trying to find something that's high quality, because it honestly can be really hard, because floor plans are often protected due to the intellectual property, IP, commonly called. But I used an internet archive, I believe it's just called Archive, and I found a PDF from the 1950s of home plans from my hometown, which is crazy. You know, I'm from Big Lake, Minnesota, but it's just like 15 minutes up the road. It's called St. Cloud, but it was made in St. Cloud, which is really awesome. And it's super cool, and it has 4-bedroom homes. You'll see in my example, I remodeled it. You don't have to. You can take it as is, but find a home in that catalog. We'll go through it that you like, and we'll run with it. So we'll be doing A, mood boards, and then for B, it looks like we have a finished plan, and then C, we'll be doing a 3D rendering of the exterior, and I'll tell you why the exterior, okay? That's very intentional. I know this is an interiors class, but I'll tell you why. And then in part D, we'll be doing a poster. So let's get at it. I'll be sharing my screen right now, and you should be seeing the Canvas page. So this may look a little different depending on who's teaching and who rearranged it, but keep in mind it's still the same content. The heart and soul is still there. So I'm going to go over that overview real quick. So the core of this project is a catalog from the 1950s, which is super awesome. And so make sure to download this. Up here you can download on Canvas. Make sure to not just use what's on here, you actually want to download it. But I found this online and we can use it, we have permission. So this is totally fine, but you can see here, looks like St. Cloud, Minnesota. Yep, that's me. So I'm going to walk you through this. These are all 4-bedroom houses, and they're all a little different. And it's very strategic. Even though this was designed in St. Cloud, they were used all over the nation. But I picked this specifically because these are the kinds of homes that are here in Salt Lake City, especially our suburbs. So Bountiful, Murray, Sandy, especially Taylorsville, all over. And you might find your home floor plan in here, and I did that very intentionally. So you will pick one that you like, and keep in mind you can remodel it slightly, but go ahead and go through this and pick one that speaks to you. They're all a little bit different. I ended up adding a big old addition to mine, and that's totally okay. You do what works for you. But just find one that sings to you and feels good, and then we will use that as our base template. So I actually used something similar to this. So you'll notice on my example, my exterior doesn't match my floor plan, and that's because I ended up not liking the exterior. So make sure to look at the exterior 3D and plan before you choose. But we'll be clipping a screenshot of the floor plan and the 3D image that we'll work with. So that will be our base material for the project. and I'll coach you through all of that. So at this point, I'd like to wrap up the introduction. We're about at 5 minutes. But go ahead and read through this, but part A will be 3 mood boards, any space in the home, okay? I chose the primary bath, dining room, and the living space. And keep in mind, I'll go into depth on the requirements and exactly what we're doing on each one. But you're the client here, so make sure this is something you like. My students won't be surprised. It's kind of a mid-mod mashed with kind of modern contemporary. That's what I enjoy. And then I'll show you how to do all of this. It's pretty easy. And you have the skills already, so it should be pretty easy. And then part B will be a rendered floor plan or a finished floor plan. And we already did this in our little beach house module. And so that will be, we'll be amping it up a little bit and increasing the complexity, but it will be fun, I promise. And then part C, we will be coloring the exterior, and we'll be knocking out the background and all the noise from that screenshot. And one thing I want to mention here is that interior designers do have a say in the exterior. So this is my 2 cents. This is just air on here. We spend 90% of our lives inside, and it'd be a shame if the exterior did not jive with the interior. So the former place I worked at, we would always work with our interiors team to make sure that the interior jived with the exterior. And we would usually start with the interior and then let that bleed to the materials on the outside. Often in practice, it's reverse, but I really like the interior designers providing input on scale, color. Now, they don't even need to provide input on materiality. It could just be, hey, we're working with these hues, tones, saturations. We're working with warm grays or cool grays. So that's super important, and our interiors folks know that. No offense to architects, I'm actually one of them, but that's our language. Us interior designers, we really focus on those details and get into color theory and all of those examples around it. And so having those people at the table, they can be like, hey, we're using this specific pattern and geometry throughout, and it would be great to see that with your metal panel joints on the exterior or window clings on your exterior glazing or windows, something like that. But that's why I do that. And I like us to suggest, it doesn't even have to be specific materials, but a color palette at least, because the exterior and interior should always jive. And then at the end, we'll do a poster, which will be all of the information that we accumulated, and we will do that in InDesign, okay? And I'll hold your hand through InDesign. There'll be no problem with that. But that's really the introduction. So I will end it here. If you'd like to keep continuing, you're more than welcome to. And after each kind of pause in the video, there'll be a little orange screen like you're used to the whole semester. Okay, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Hey everyone, and welcome back. We'll be diving into part A, which is the mood boards. So for this project, you will be doing 3 mood boards, and each mood board at a minimum will have 12 masked items. And I want to show you a few tricks, so make sure to absolutely review the rubric. I have it all over our Canvas page. I would highly suggest you review that before starting, okay? Because it's very detailed and it tells you exactly what we need. This is quite a big project, so I want you to be aware of all of the intricacies involved with what regarding your expectations. So I want to just show you this example here, and there's a few things going on here. So you may notice that I drew lines around all my finishes. You may be thinking, why did you do that? Well, I've done it for a very long time, and I think it helps anchor it in space. Otherwise, they're just these floating blobs. And it also gives it an architectural interior design feel, and almost like they're spanning out in different directions. And I also have the ability to layer them. So if you see that, I simply just created a layer when I was done, and I used 2 pixel-sized brush, and I pushed Shift on my keyboard to make a straight line, and I just drew them. You can also use the pen tool. So there's really no secrets here. I won't be showing any demos because we've done, honestly, like 6 demos related to these skills already, and I know you don't want to see me lecture again on something you've seen like 4 or 5 times. So that's incredibly intentional. I'm saving your sanity here by not showing you how to mask again. You know how to do that. I've been pounding it in your head. So you will notice there are a few extra credit opportunities, and those are related to transformations, adjustments, and drop shadows. So we don't need to make a realistic scene here. Do you notice how my rug is slanted a little bit? I did that because I wanted to. And do you see here in my toilet one how it's more 2D? Totally okay. You do what you're comfortable with. Right here, I really enjoyed making a little sizzle of a 3D space. You do not need to do that. And then I added those overlapping lines because I wanted to. It felt good. And then just a tip, if you have angled lines, just when you're trying to draw those with the brush, just click with the brush and then hit shift and click in another direction and it will connect the two. Or you can use the pen tool as well. But here I added a drop shadow. You don't need a drop shadow on everything, and I actually wouldn't recommend it because it looks pretty cheesy. But if you have something big like this, like a golden retriever, it would feel good with the drop shadow, so I would suggest that. But I just artfully placed these, okay? So composition is key. Make it look beautiful. Overlap those textures and materials. The key to succeeding in this is overlapping. Do you see how I'm overlapping things here? Intentionally overlap that music note to show that our ceiling fan not only has lights, but it also has an MP3 or like Spotify musical Bluetooth thing attached to it, whatever it's called. And then you can see here, I'm starting to layer things that would belong together. And we need 12 items, but please include a variety. I don't want to see just flat finishes. Include some accessories, a mirror. I included the toilet. I mean, it's a cool looking toilet. And then down here, I included a wall color. You can do something as simple as that, a nice chandelier, a few plants. And again, this is just masking, transformations, and adjustments. We've been doing this all semester, so I won't bore you with another tutorial on that, but I just want to pick your brain a bit. Do you see here how I changed the line thickness of my lines here in Photoshop to kind of ground that rug and make those exterior lines thicker? And then up here, I made them a little thinner. That's intentional. And I added it here as well. You may not like these kind of drafting lines, but please try it out. Please do. See if you like it. I highly suggest doing it. It gives it that extra flair and makes it jump off the page. And I'm just going to show you quickly what I mean by the kind of shortcuts I've been using with the shift key and the brush to get those lines. So I'm going to change my brush size to around 2 pixels, and I'm going to make that black. You can see here, if I click B for brush, I can draw that little line just like that. But if I hold shift, it makes it straight, okay? And then also if I click once and then hit shift and click again, connects the two. And then one other thing I want to show you is that if you do Command R or Control R, it will turn on your ruler and you can drag little guides. They won't export with your project, but you can see here I was using them to line some things up that I found helpful. Okay, so that really does it for part A. There'll be 3 of these. Make sure to read the directions very carefully on the rubric. I spent a lot of time on that, so please read through it. I proofread everything, and so it should be really smooth and professional. But go ahead and look through that and let me know if you have any questions or whomever may be teaching at this time. But I have it all lined out here. And then we normally don't, we did for Kodak project, upload JPEGs, but we will for this because we have 3 files, Photoshop files and 3 JPEGs, and it's nice to have the JPEGs as well to grade quicker. And then you'll do a discussion post. For every part of this, we'll have a tiny discussion post. That is nothing new. We've been doing that for about 14 weeks. So I would hope you're okay with that, kind of the backbone of this class, since majority of this class, or this whole class, is online. All right, so that does it. Go ahead and dive in. Just reach out with whoever will be teaching, myself, one of my colleagues, with any questions, and they will take care of you. And then we will move on to part B, and I will see you in the next segment of this video. Hey folks, and welcome back to part B of this video. We will be going into a finished floor plan. So this is, again, very intentionally, this isn't supposed to be anything new. This is a chance for you to take what you've learned and make something that's very meaningful to you. Your baby, essentially, this course, your thesis, your capstone, the last hurrah. This is yours. So this is, I don't want to call it a gift because I'm not giving you anything, but it's like your time to celebrate what you've learned and do something cool that we can put in your portfolio. Okay, so I'll start screen sharing here, and I will show you, this is my example. And you're going to notice it looks a little different than what we did on the kind of beach house module, the one where you picked a client and did all the floor plan finishes. So here we won't be doing any appliances, no countertops, just floors. Let's keep it super simple. If you want to do those, be my guest. I don't have any extra credit outlined for that, but you're welcome to do it without additional credit. That's up to you, but it's just floor plans. And so you'll notice I have a drop shadow around here that I did to elevate it. And then I imported some trees from Google and masked them and added some around. And then I added some topography lines with the brush tool. Totally optional. You don't have to do that, but would I recommend it? Definitely, because it looks sweet. And once we do that and we put it on our presentation board, it makes a huge difference. It literally makes it a good project to like a pop-in project. So make sure to think about doing something like that. And then I also added a north arrow, and that will be required. And you can simply Google north arrow PNG. If you remember, PNG means it has a transparent background, and you can drag and drop that into your file, or you can create your own. That's totally fine. So I want to show you how we're going to do that. And so please ignore the little frowny faces next to everything. It's some Canvas accessibility rating that actually doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But what we're doing here is I will take my floor plan, all right? And what I will do here is I'll zoom in good. So get it on the whole screen. You want this high quality, all right? So if you do anything with care on this project in time, it's this portion. This portion is so important to get right. Otherwise, your image quality will be quite fuzzy and it will detract from the craftsmanship and it will not look good. So I'm going to just simply do my shortcut. Remember, this was covered in Module 1 on how to take a screenshot, so review that if needed. And then right here, I will screenshot that and I will drag it into my Photoshop file. And again, make sure to review the rubric before starting. That is super critical. And if you read the rubric, it will tell you that you will need to do an 11 by 17 size of your file. So that's 11 high, 17 wide. Okay. All right. So I'm going to just open up my plan here and show you a few tricks. So we will need to label everything. So make sure to do that and pick a label size that feels good. And then we won't be doing any furniture. That's just a whole nother project in itself. But what I want to show you here, what's going on, is that I intentionally made an addition. And I just did that with my brush. You don't need to. You can take it as is, how it comes. But when it comes to how I really worked with this image, let me show you. So I have my base image here, and I masked everything I didn't want out of it. So I'm going to open up this mask in a new window, but I masked out the dimensions, the room names, anything I didn't want to see, I masked out. So make sure to do that. That is super important, and you will, so I'm going to show original. Hopefully that shows up. Okay, and you can see here, it's just showing the portions that I masked out. Okay, I'm in black and white view, and you can just toggle your view here. I didn't really teach this view, but here we go. This just shows you the portions I masked out of the original image. And then I want to show you something super important here, so please make sure you're paying attention. This was covered already in our one of our prior modules in the floor plan module, but super important, so please make sure to eyes up here. Okay, so I need to unlock this layer and I will double click on it. Okay, so this is my drawing. And if you notice here, I can change this and it knocks out my background if I double click that. So make sure to do that, okay? And that will knock out your background. That is super important. I cannot emphasize that enough. So make sure to take care and quality when doing that, all right? And again, that's in our floor plan module if you want to go back and look at that again. And then all I did simply for the background, I know this sounds like taboo, like, oh, how do you do like a drop shadow? Like, it's not one object. Actually, I'm on team lazy when it comes to Photoshop. All I did was I drew a shape, and you can push shift to get right angles underneath my building. Okay, and then I hit B for brush, black, made my brush massive, like 5,000. And then once I did that, I colored in that portion. And then I went up to, so click it, and then I went up to filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And then you can change the radius here. And I put it underneath and I changed the opacity just a tiny bit. That's really how I did it. And then don't be afraid to add adjustments, transformations. That is all on the table here. Please do that. So one thing I want to notice, be very, very, very intentional with your scale here. I cannot emphasize that enough. It should be realistic. Okay, that's the biggest issue that students have with this project, is that that scale needs to feel good. And if you notice, do you see how my all of my materials are oriented in the same direction, north to south? That's a good move, okay? It can be east to west, but make sure you're very intentional with that. One rule of thumb I like to go in the direction that provides the flow of the building. So if you think about it, you would likely walk in this way and move north. That is just my 2 cents. Every interior designer will have a different opinion on that. But if you look here as a counter argument, the hallway, it feels a little weird because it's going left to right instead of, it'd be going left to right as you're walking down instead of just going down that corridor. It's up to you. Every professor, interior designer will have a different opinion, but just keep it consistent in your project or do what feels best. And then just make minimum of 3 textures, and that's really it. And then go ahead and put your logo down on the bottom right, and then a north arrow, and like I said, you can just get one off of Google and mask it. Okay, so that really is everything that we need for that portion. I will see you in part C, where we'll talk about the screenshot of the exterior rendering and coloring that. If you have any questions, go ahead and reach out to me or whomever may be your instructor at this time via Canvas inbox, and there'll be a brief pause, and then we'll move on to the next section. Thank you so much. Hey everyone, and welcome to part C of our project. So what we're doing here is we are coloring the outside of the building. So super important to do here is that we will go up to our image of our 3D home, and we will take a screenshot of that, okay? And then once we take a screenshot, we will bring it into our program, and I'm just going to hide everything to show you how I did it. And we will knock out the background. And if you remember, I showed it in the last video. We double click here, and then we just change this tab here till it gets to a point we're comfortable with. Okay, that will knock out all that fuzz, and we won't need to bother with cleaning it up. So that's really all we'll do there. And then all I did here is you won't see really any masking, and that's okay. I'm not too concerned about you actually masking on this. What I'm concerned about is you coloring in the lines. So if you use this tool here, this polygonal selection tool, you can create your shape, and then you can just brush. I need to create a new layer, but you can just brush in it with whatever color you need to, okay? And that will allow you to, you see, just draw over it. And then what we're doing is we'll put all colors over our drawing, and we will change our layer to multiply, okay, our blending mode. That is super important. So please make sure to understand that and know that. That is super critical to the success of this project. So I just want to, if you see here, if I move that around, you can see what's underneath it. And you don't need to do it that way, but I highly suggest it. It just makes the craftsmanship a little tighter. So make sure to do that. And then we'll need a minimum, review the rubric, I think it's 3 materials, and a paint color counts as its own material, so red and white and gray, what I did, would count as 3 different materials. So you just need to color the building, no need to color the sky or the bushes, just the building. And then one thing I want you to do is create a new layer, and this is called a pop line. So this is nothing new here. This is a technique that has been used for decades by architects. I am not the one to invent it, but get a decently sized line, and then using that shift shortcut I showed you in a previous video in this module, that's too thick, way too thick. Let's maybe go with 5 pixels. Just outline your building, and it will make it scream off the page. So this is a trick that many architects use, especially back in the day. Not very common now, but I like it because if you see, it added a lot of definition here. So I just went around and I added it like that. So make sure to get it just kind of on the walls and roof, and it will make it scream off the page. Look at my example. But you can see here that this is looking pretty good. You know that adjustment I made earlier to knock out that background? I could use some more. I could just pull that dial to the left a bit to make sure that we get rid of that visual clutter in the background. But that's how you do it. Very simple, very clean. We're just trying to show the design team, hey, I designed the interior a certain way. This is how I would suggest doing the outside. That's totally okay. We can be friends and play together with architects. We just don't need to hide in the inside of the building because interior designers, we're educated professionals. We can pick exterior materials just as well as the next person. May not have like all of the knowledge with exterior detailing, but we know about design, color, proportion, scale, rhythm, etc. And that is our jam. So let's make some suggestions. Okay, so that really does it. Again, a lot of this is repeat, but I just wanted to get on here and give you a brief idea of what's going on. Okay, so we'll wrap this portion up and then we'll move on to part D of making our poster. So if you have any questions, go ahead and send me a message or whomever may be teaching at this time. And thank you so much. See you in the next one. Okay, we are back. So for our final poster, we'll be using InDesign. And I just want to walk you through InDesign real quick. So I made you a template, so this should be incredibly painless. But what we'll do is open up InDesign and make sure you have the latest version, and then open up that template I made for you in the Canvas module. And then just go up to Window, Workspace, Reset Essentials. And if you remember how I told you this is just as easy as Photoshop, if not literally the same in some regard, that is literally lifted from Photoshop. That is, we've been resetting settings all semester, and you should know that by now. And then I have all my tools here, again, just like Photoshop, but now we're vector-based because we're working with mathematical lines and equations that can be infinitely zoomed. But we won't have to worry too much with what's going on here. Keep it on the Pages tab, and this will be the different categories of your pages that you have. I already made it for you, so you don't have to do anything. But here, I'd like you to keep the text size the same. Just change the font. And so if you remember from our, it was our Kodak project, I showed you how to get custom fonts from Adobe. You'll need to do that. And promise me you'll do that, please. It just makes it look so much better and not canned like it was just off the shelf. But what we'll do here is we'll simply just click in and we'll start typing. It's very easy. And so right here, we have our white arrow and we have our black arrow. And if you hover over it, it'll tell you more about it. This is our direct selection tool. We won't need that, so we're not going to worry about it. Instead, we'll need the selection tool here, and that'll help us move things around, okay? And I can just zoom in and out with my trackpad, mouse, and also a lot of the shortcuts will be similar to Photoshop. But what we're going to do here is one, we'll be editing the text, all right? Please don't change the size of the text, keep that. And also one thing most people get wrong, and I already formatted this for you so you won't have to, but if you go under properties, they always turn on hyphenate. We don't want any of our text to hyphenate. And then I have it on block justify left. So that is just keeps it very clean and neat. We won't need to worry about that too much. I'm actually going to keep this tutorial portion super simple because it really is just like Photoshop's friend, and you are totally qualified in Photoshop. At this point, masters in Photoshop, so I'm not going to bore you with all the intricacies. But I made a little north arrow for you if you want to use it. You can use this little line here I made as a divider. If you click it, you can stretch it out on the ends. Even if you hold down Shift, it'll extend it straight, just like Photoshop. So you can see here there's a lot going on that's similar. All right, and I left some notes for you here. And when you're done with these, you can just highlight them and hit delete on your keyboard. No need to keep them. We have layers and everything in InDesign. I won't get into that because they're really not used in practice, but they're there if you need them. But for this, you'll need to put in an introduction, client, skills, and inspiration. So, and keep in mind, you can move this wherever you need to on the page. Make the composition beautiful and make it work. Make everything feel at home and in place and intentionally uh, set somewhere, okay? We don't want things floating. So if you have that exterior image, like I showed you on my example, that might look good on the bottom because it has a strong base to it. And then we can kind of arrange our little interior renderings and floor plans around it. I ended up putting my floor plan in the sky of my building, and I just exported that. So I turned the background off and I exported that from Photoshop as a PNG. So if you remember, that's a transparent background, and it wiped my white background and I could overlay it. So be creative with that and super fun. So a few things I want to show you is our toolbar is here. These tools are very similar to Photoshop, but like I said, they're actually pretty much the same. We're a vector-based program. So instead of pixels, we're using vectors, which are lines influenced by mathematical equations within the software that allow us to infinitely scale it, okay? Minus JPEGs that we insert, okay? We drag and drop our JPEGs. Those are pixel-based. So it's kind of a combination of the two, but I wanted to mention that. And so when I am importing an image, I will simply drag and drop that. And I'm going to put in an image of my, let's do dining room. So I have this here, just give it a second, okay? And I just click and drag, okay? And then super important, when you are resizing, make sure that you are aware of the two windows here. So this is the trickiest part of InDesign, and once you got it, you got it. Is this blue one right here is cropping the view of my image, all right? And if I go inside, I can additionally enlarge that. Okay, so there's orange and there's blue. You shouldn't need orange at all. So if you double click and get orange, click once out and then click on it again. So you should not use orange. And if you need to resize this, so pay attention, super important. For Mac users, that will be Shift Command, and you will stretch that out, okay? And it will take the orange and blue and stretch them together in harmony. Super important. I'm going to say that again. On a Mac, that will be Shift Command, and you will just drag, okay, from the corner. And then our folks on PCs, that's going to be Shift Control, okay? And if that doesn't work, try Shift Alt. It may have changed in your different versions, but that's how we resize that, okay? And then if you want to just tuck in the edges a bit, you can just scoot that in, just like so. Okay, so that's how we do that. All right, this is super basic. We're just placing on images. Do not overcomplicate this. Look at my example. It is super clean and minimal. That's how we do it in design. Super clean, minimal. Let's focus on our work and celebrate that, and not our kind of artistic abilities in design software. Okay, so we're celebrating our Photoshop skills, not our InDesign. So it doesn't need to be overly complicated. And then, like I said, please make sure to utilize that Adobe font. So important. Find something that feels good to you and matches the design. And then also, I'm going to show you how to export this as a PDF and JPEG. All right, so for our submission, you will only upload a PDF, not the InDesign file. Canvas cannot handle that. That is a lot of memory, and Canvas will just spin eternally and won't actually give it to us to grade because it's just so heavy. It does work sometimes, but there's a lot of caveats we could do. So I'm going to show you how to export as a PDF. So you can either do Command E or Control E, or you can just go to File, Export, and then we will save that to wherever it needs to go. Before that, I need to change that to Adobe PDF, and print is fine. We don't have any interactive elements like links or videos on here. And so save that. And then here we'll want, so this looks confusing, but it's actually very simple. We'll want all pages. And then if we go under compression, we just want to double check that we're at least at 200 here, 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 and here, okay? Or as an alternative, you can select high quality print. It'll up them a little more, make the file size larger, which in my opinion is unnecessary. I prefer to go with that modified version I had previously, where I go to compression, or excuse me, I go to compression and I set all of those as 200. And then you hit export and you'll get your PDF. So very simple, it takes about 10 seconds. And then you'll need to put a JPEG, you'll export a JPEG for your discussion post because you can embed PDFs. So for that, you go to File, Export, and you follow the same process, but this time we'll be hitting JPEG. So very similar, honestly, almost the same as Photoshop in a way, just a little different. And then finally, we'll have to package. And this is for you, not for me. We won't be uploading this, but make sure to learn this because you'll need this in practice. Literally every intern makes this mistake. So I want you to learn from me and what I've done is so that you see how I drag that image in here. That image isn't saved to the file because if we saved all of these huge images to our InDesign file, that file would be massive. So instead, it's linking it from my desktop where I saved it. Is that good? No, I should probably save it on a Google Drive or something. But if you're not saving them to a reliable place while you're doing it, like your desktop, this is what I suggest doing, and this is what most people will do, is we will go up to File and then Package, okay? And what this is going to do is this is going to make a little folder for us that has the special fonts, all of the images, and all of our files in one. And that way we can zip it and save it to like our Google Drive, Dropbox, and share it with coworkers and colleagues. And so we will package that. And what will happen, so I would need to save that first. But once we do that, let me save that to our desktop. It will package and it will put everything neatly into little folders. So let's take a look at what's going on here. You can see here it already did it, and it put all of my links, which are my images, in there. Super neat. And you can just save that whole thing, that whole folder, toss it into your Google Drive and call it a day. And then you can delete all the remnants from your computer because it's a lot of files and it can bog down your computer. Okay, so that does it. That's it. Congratulations on making it this far. Please, 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 pretty please with the cherry on top, extra whip, make sure to read those rubrics. I want to make sure that you get as many points as possible. We have one more project after this. It's tiny. It's a course portfolio using InDesign, and I'll provide a template for that as well. But thank you so much, seriously, for your hard work. I know I ask a lot of my students in this class, and that comes from a place of wanting you to grow professionally because I made a lot of mistakes in Photoshop in actual practice, and I want you to learn from that. So I want you to come out proficient and honestly masters of Photoshop, which I feel like all of you are at this point. Any questions, go ahead and message me, and thank you so much.